Hi everybody, Golden Era Bookworm here. I finally finished reading Muscle, Smoke and Mirrors Volume 1 by Randy Roach, and I've got to admit that it was a beautiful read. It's just the best way to say it. This I consider to be one of the greatest books on the history of physical culture and bodybuilding. Remember, bodybuilding did stem from physical culture. And it also showcases the history and the birthing of the fitness and supplement industry, which was obviously it was birthed from physical culture, from the evolution of bodybuilding. Randy Roach has so far written 3 volumes in this series. There's 3 of them: Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3, which has Part 1 out now, and I believe he's working on Part 2. And having finally read this first volume, which I have to admit was way overdue, it's over 500 pages long, I can say that I was extremely impressed at the research and accuracy of the content. The book covers, in only briefly, the ancient history of physical culture, referencing the diets, for example, of the gladiators and the warriors and athletes from Rome and Greece, millennia ago. And then fast forwards to the 18th century with the rebirth of physical culture. From here, the book reflects the acceleration of the Iron Games progress. It's the best way to put it, because it truly is. When you reflect on the last 200-300 years, you can really see the rebirth of physical culture and its rapid evolution into weightlifting, bodybuilding, and now the fitness industry. Let me see. I mean, you have, of course, the from the Bronze Era, the Strongman shows, the earliest physique contests. These all happened during the Bronze Era. You've got the origins of weightlifting and bodybuilding during the Silver Era, and finally the advent of drug use in the sport during the late 50s and early 60s, which in this book is termed as the classic era of bodybuilding. What I found most amazing was the evolution of the physiques, the techniques that the bodybuilders used, and this was paralleled with the changes and the improvements in both diet and supplementation, which spawned generation after generation of increasingly bigger and more aesthetic physiques. What is truly a revelation to many readers, not necessarily to myself, in this book also is the influence of science and the food and dairy industry to both the general populace, their ideas of what a healthy diet is, and how this eventually affected the bodybuilding diet. So you really see this kind of over time, how changes actually within physical culture and bodybuilding were affected as well by science and by the food and drug industry as well. It's very important to understand that the food and drug industry work very, very closely together, and there's a lot of influence from that onto government policies, right? And to me, it's actually very obvious, because I'm a scientist, and it's obvious to me how polluted and corrupt certain administrations and, for example, pharmaceutical companies are in influencing governmental decisions and bodies on these decisions, and how they don't necessarily educate them properly, but they educate these bodies, and truly what you end up with is with a lack of education of not just the general populace, but of the medical field as well. And this certainly was made very, very clear in this book. A lot of people are not aware of these things, and it's truly a sad thing. This so-called dumbing down of the general populace and the medical field in regards to nutrition has much to blame. I also agree with Randy's approach here. I agree with that. It has much to blame for the increasing epidemic of degenerative diseases that we are seeing. It's very prevalent in today's society. The book, now on a more positive note, covers all the main players and their contributions to the Iron Game, such as Eugene Sandow, of course, and Professor Attila, Hackenschmidt, Mark Berry, Charles Atlas, Bernard McFadden, Jack LaLanne, Steve Reeves, Rich Park, Clarence Ross, John Grimmick, of course. Then we move on to Wader, the York Barbell Club, Perry Rader. Sorry, I meant Weider, not Wader. Weider, the York Barbell Club, Perry Rader, Dan Lurie, and of course the nutritional gurus Rio Blair, Vince Gironda, and of course as well as the famous bodybuilders that really made a dent in the silver, or as Randy Roach calls it, the classic era of bodybuilding. Jim Park, Bill Pearl, Bruce Randall with his incredible transformation. I must cover that on my channel. Dave Draper, Don Howarth, Bob Guider. And finally as well, we also see the evolution of diets over time and the extremes that some of these bodybuilders would go to achieve their desired results in their physiques. I mean, it's incredible the diets that they actually had. I mean, I've talked about the 36 eggs a day diet, the steak and eggs diet, and of course these are extreme diets. I don't deny that whatsoever. Bodybuilding is an extreme sport. You are trying to build musculature above what is normal. And you see all of this, and you think the 36 eggs a day diet is bad. Oh my God! I mean, that might be the opinion of many people, that it is bad. I'm just reflecting what was done back then, and talking about it on my channel. But if you think that's shocking, is what I should say. If you think that is shocking, you should see some of the stuff the guys did back then. It's incredible. Of course, you also see the infamous, or you read about the infamous Dr. Ziegler, and the invention, of course, of Dianabol and other testosterone derivatives in the late 50s. And this is also, I guess, covered, and its introduction to bodybuilding is covered, which of course changed the iron game forever, didn't it? I mean, it was that transition period in the very late 50s and early 60s where we really saw, if you have magazines like I do, you really see the sudden transformation in physiques, being way larger. Suddenly 18-inch arms were now 19, 20-inch arms. Chests that were 48 inches were now 50, 52, 54, 56-inch chests. Vascularity, shredded physiques, bigger and more shredded than ever. It's so obvious that the change that Dianabol had on the physiques. This book, what can I say? I mean, it's like a summary of the history of bodybuilding and nutrition, and I strongly believe that it should be on every Iron Game addict's shelf. It should be on your bookshelf. If you were to choose 10 books or even 5 books, I would definitely have this as one of my absolute top books. It really does show the history of bodybuilding and nutrition. What can I say? I'll give the book a double, a quadruple. Damn, it gets every thumbs up I could ever give. I mean, it is one of the best books I've ever read on bodybuilding. I get so excited. I'm sorry. It's one of the best books I've ever read, and I highly recommend it to you if you want to read about it. A lot of people ask me more about Vince Gironda, Rio Blair, this person, that person. I mean, a lot of it is covered here, and if I go through it quickly with you, I've got bookmarks all over the place, but you can see that very early in the beginning, it talks about, let's see, the origins of physical culture, right? Here we go, origins. You see, for example, that the first photos are, I believe, of Eugene Sandow in here, because, of course, he's one of the very first, well, that's Albert Trella, but there we go, Eugene Sandow. We continue, and as you continue through the book, we move on to the silver era. That's Charles Atlas. That's L. Liederman. You've got all the major players. The Mighty Atom, that was an excellent part of the book as well. I really liked reading about him. Perry Rader. The who's who, the major players are all covered here, and their contributions. And this is such a great book. To me, it's almost like a reference book, I have to admit. That's Dan Lurie there, and his war against John Grimmick is hilarious. I've already covered that on my channel because I've already covered these topics, but still, it's fantastic to see such a great summary. Literally, it's a great summary. Yeah, this is why I say if you're interested in the history of bodybuilding and nutrition, a lot of people ask me, what were the diets in the Bronze Era? It's in here. What were the diets and the training methods in the Silver Era? It's all here, you know. Here we have Reg Park's section with his kinds of training, you know, as well as Hoffman, Gironda. Everything's in here. It's fantastic. You know, just giving you a quick flick. I mean, the book is over 500 pages, so, you know, sit down and enjoy it over Christmas, I say. It's an excellent book. Yeah. There's not many photos, I'll say that much. But yeah. There we go, Larry Scott, Sergio Oliva. The book covers, you could say, everything from, as I said, a very brief history from the ancient Rome and Greece, even biblical tales of Samson, etc. But it really just focuses from the 1800s, more or less, all the way up to the 1960s. That's volume 1. And you just see basically the introduction of Dianabol on Physiques. There's an excellent comparison of Bob Guider, who was a purely natural bodybuilder, versus Don Howarth, who was one of the first bodybuilders to ever experiment with Dianabol, and of course at extremely low doses. So his physique that he achieved with basically almost nothing, almost barely any Dianabol, is truly impressive. Yeah, basically most of the physiques that are covered in here, with the exception of Larry Scott, Sergio Oliva, Dave Draper, Bill Pearl, and Don Howarth, the rest are all drug-free. And it's just amazing to see what is naturally achievable. Of course, following what many will consider in the general populace extreme practices in diet. There's no doubt about it. You know, bodybuilding is an extreme sport and requires extreme measures to push the body to its limits, to its natural limits. It's just an amazing book. I really like this book. It's just fantastic. I mean, if my house was burning down and my magazines I couldn't take them all, I'd take this book with me because it is that good. Anyway, I think I've rambled on enough about this book. Again, I give it my absolute thumbs up. You know, it's just great. So if you're interested in purchasing it, you can find it on Randy Roach's website. I believe it's www.musclesmokeandmirrors.com or something like that, or either www.randyroach.com, something like that. But you can find it online. It's easy to find. Just type in Muscle, Smoke and Mirrors and you'll find it. Find it on eBay, on Amazon, or on his website. So check it out. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't to the Golden Era Bookworm. Leave me your comments and thank you for watching. If you'd like to support my work, please donate via PayPal. And you can also support me by getting onto my website, where you'll find lots of books, out-of-print books, and courses on old school bodybuilding. www.goldenerabookworm.com. Contact me as well if you'd like for me to review any books, or if you'd like to review some products, or if you've got anything you'd like to give away, especially if you want to give away, for example, your old books and magazines, which I'm always adding to my collection. It's a great way to support this channel. Anyway, once again, hope you've enjoyed watching the video. This is the Golden Era Bookworm. Bye for now, and thanks Randy for this awesome book.